Okay, we're there. We've made it. We've arrived. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's it's that end of the year where you still have to finish quite a lot of stuff, but already around you, everyone is like taking it slow, so kind of hard to to keep up with everything. And it's almost done, almost time to relax. Are you, by the way, planning anything? Will you be going offline for a week or whatever? Or of course, with Christmas, I would imagine family stuff. And
Yeah.
what's the plan?
We are going to visit my family and then my wife's family, like over this weekend, and then right around New Year's, we're going to be going on a little bitty, kind of mini vacation, long weekend vacation kind of
Nice.
thing. Um, but I'm going to try to get most of the main channel stuff done ahead of time just so that we can kind of actually relax while we're doing that. I think I'll still try to stream every once in a while because I just like streaming and I like hanging out with everybody. But the main channel stuff, I think we'll try to knock out ahead of time and just take it easy. So, yeah, I'm in the
Yeah.
same spot as you where it's like, we can see the end destination, ready to take a
Yeah.
break, but we're not quite there yet. I have like 3 videos to record today, so I'm also
Oh my
feeling
god.
it.
Oh damn. You've already been streaming for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah. This of course also the podcast. Hello everyone. It's a beautiful day.
it
That's
is.
usually the intro.
It is. It's a
But
beautiful day wherever you are.
wh-
I know. I realize
where
wherever you might be might not. It might not be a nice day where you are. But
it's dark here. It's like 9:30. So or like
oh,
9.
really?
No, it's almost 9 p.m. Yeah. So
Here the sun has
it
been
was a
setting at
pretty
like
good day.
4 p.m. So it's almost dark here. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's a wonderful day. We have a handful of things to chat about. I guess just housekeeping for people listening, for anybody watching kind of the VOD and the post afterwards, just so everybody knows. We're not going to get into any specific spoiler stuff with Insomniac. We're not going to be showing gameplay. We're not going to be showing any of those specific leaks.
It is crazy though. That I've been like keeping track of it. Like I'm not talking about it either. At least right now. Like I think the sort of stance where this is just horrible. Like this is a hack. This is a crime that has been committed here.
hmm.
And yeah, talking about that just doesn't feel right. But at one point, we can't speculate about the future of Sony without bringing stuff like that up.
Yeah.
Like we can't be like, oh, I wonder what Insomniac is gonna do. While we obviously know.
Yeah, my
Um,
my stance has just been that I think I don't want to talk about the stuff that is not constructive or doesn't actually give you information. Like those early access preview videos and stuff. Same thing with like the GTA 6 leaks last year.
oh yeah,
It doesn't tell you anything. Like you see it, okay, it's like a third person game with a character that's bipedal. Cool. Like it doesn't tell you hardly anything because it's so early in the development process. Looking at it is just going to be like give you broad strokes, but nothing more. The final game won't look anything like it. Like it really will be very, very different. So stuff like that is just not really useful to look at. Other things like story spoilers, cast spoilers, things like
oh
that,
yeah, no,
that's
no
not
way.
worth looking at because it would spoil the game when you actually get to play it. So I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
interested
yeah.
in going through that. What I'm fine personally, this is where I maybe am different than other people, but I honestly don't care that much about looking at, say, like a leaked financial element where it's like, oh, Sony might have made this much money from this project, or Sony plans in 2027 to release this type of console, or like that kind of thing. I don't feel that bad for big multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're not being personally harmed, and honestly, I don't think discussing that harms their business at all. If anything, it might even help it because it might get people excited. And then of course the employee stuff is horrible and nobody wants to delve into any of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But
100%.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's no way at this point to talk about Sony for the next 6-7 years without referencing some of the stuff that's come out here
Yeah,
because there are answers in the leak to
and
those questions.
and it's pretty interesting as well. It just once again we of course had it with the Microsoft Activision court battle against the FTC. It just gives you a very interesting, never seen before, or very rare look behind the curtain at these companies. Like what really goes on to make the sort of AAA games that we just really that we just play at launch and get excited for before release. Like there's so much planning and moving parts, and obviously you see the number of people in the credits, and you're like, whoa, it's huge. But to manage that and make sure that you hit milestones and that you don't overspend, and now having some sort of the budget for Spider-Man 2 and how many copies they have to sell to break even, like it does kind of go back to what we've also been talking about with the Sony live service sort of strategy, that kind of the strategy they have with focusing on these big single player games that get more and more expensive while they're only selling them for $10 more starting this generation, is the profit is only getting lower and the sort of risk is getting higher, because going for a new IP and spending that much money, you're not sure if you're gonna sell 7 million units, and that is sometimes needed to break even with these games, which is crazy. So I think that sort of stuff is super interesting and might be worth discussing in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, and that's something we can just, I think is fair to reference. It's just that, I mean, there are numbers dropped for the cost of developing like Spider-Man 2, which we already knew it was like probably a $200 million game, but it looks like it's closer to like 300 plus billion,
yeah,
or not
yeah.
million, million.
Oh yeah, that would be
That would be a problem.
Insomniac closes immediately.
Yeah. Where's the money going?
Yeah.
But like that level of cost is just outrageous. I mean, it's the same problem that like Marvel and Disney have gotten into chasing these blockbusters, is that they're just pumping out these crazily expensive films, and they have to perform so fantastically well just to break even, that it's starting to beg the question, is it even worth it? Like, yeah, it does $1 billion at the box office, but once you factor in like the marketing campaigns, the cost to pay the percentage of revenue to the actors, like it's not actually as successful as you might have thought it was.
Yeah, you
And
can better make like a horror movie that costs 10 million and then makes 100 million at the box office or something. Like
yeah,
those are mostly the most profitable.
yeah, it
Which
was
is great.
like I forget what year it was, but there was like a an instance where there were like a lot of blockbusters coming out one year, but the most profitable film of the year was this like Christian religious film that they spent $100,000 filming and making, and then they put it out for like 2 weeks in theaters, and in the US tens of millions of families went to see it, and it made ridiculous amounts of money just because their cost was basically nothing, and it was all word of mouth marketing. So you're right, like some of those smaller projects just are way more profitable than Avengers Endgame, even though you would think that Avengers Endgame would be the most profitable thing ever, but it's like, no, it's profit is what happens after you remove the expenses from the revenue, and if those expenses are too big, you're not actually making very much money, you're just
No.
burning it.
And of course there's way more going on with these movies. Like obviously Avengers has way more like merchandise potential, so they of course look at that as well probably. But yeah, it's overall interesting. And to kind of talk about, like, again, not going too much into like what the lineup is and how does Wolverine look or whatever, but another like part of this discussion is the fact that, for example, we see them try more of these mid-sized games with Uncharted Lost Legacy, of course, and Miles Morales, and they really know that, for example, Miles Morales was only 90 million, and that sold 10 million. So the profit on Miles might actually be higher than on Spider-Man 3 or 2.
Yeah.
So that shows you the strategy and maybe a way to still make it like like still make it make sense for them, because of course Miles used a lot of assets and things from Spider-Man 2018. So if they that really nuke down the budget and make sure that they can make these single player games more sustainable, which I also found interesting and shows you that probably that's gonna be happening with God of War as well. Like I put in the doc the Valhalla DLC that of course came out. I saw you like played it as well and stuff, and I totally think that is one part of the puzzle. But I totally think that next year, at the end of next year, probably we get like an Atreus sort of adventure
Yeah.
that will be more akin to Miles, $50. And if they sell 10 million of that, it might be more profitable than Ragnarok, which is crazy. But that might be a way for them to, to make it all work.
Well, and what's really fascinating for me is like we're all saying that like at $70 a pop, this isn't sustainable. It's like, how does this even work? Like how does this work for big single player games that are this expensive to make on a service like Game Pass? Like I don't.
Oh yeah,
It only
that's a whole
works.
different.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. Like people are already like, the math doesn't seem to really make a lot of sense, because I mean there's only so many dollars going around and people signed up and everything, and it's the same thing Netflix ran into because they did everything and they're including all these exclusives that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but their revenue doesn't actually increase when they drop these massive things. Just like with Starfield, it doesn't seem like they had that many new signups for Game Pass on Starfield. Like it just didn't really happen. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, because I would not be surprised, and people can be upset all they want. I would not be shocked at all if we see another price hike in the next generation. I think we go from 70, we could see it jump into 90 or 100 pretty easily. I think.
Maybe like for some like unicorn games, like if GTA is like $80, they will be fine, and maybe they can probably pull that off. And then Witcher 4 or whatever, like there are those games that people will buy no matter what. So maybe they can try that as well. Spider-Man 3, like they were even looking at maybe making a Spider-Man 3 part 1 and part 2 to make them combined $100. So
wow. I mean, honestly, they have been doing it in film forever. I mean, they did it with like Harry Potter, and they did it with
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Well. They did it with Twilight, I think.
Hobbit was 3 movies.
Yeah, they just stretched over 3. Yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if they start to do it. It's just, this is what happens when you have stupid expensive entertainment pieces, and then your customer base is only accustomed to paying a certain amount per experience. So you just have to find other ways to do it. Some companies have tried to do it with microtransactions and live service stuff, and that doesn't seem to be working. And this is why, like, I've tried to stress to people that just throwing out corporate greed as an explanation for price hikes and stuff isn't always accurate. Sometimes it is just corporate greed.
Yeah, 100%.
But trying to break even is not greedy. That's just trying to survive and be sustainable. Because guess what? If they don't break even, you don't get Spider-Man 2. You don't get God of War Ragnarok if they can't break even. There's other things that come into it, like maybe selling consoles, and they have licensing deals that they have to deliver certain products on. But the broad point is, if they're not making money, they don't want to do those things anymore because they're losing money doing it. Why would they lose money if they can help it? So like, breaking even is not just corporate greed for the sake of corporate greed. And what these studios and publishers are trying to do now is they're trying to find a way to make this sustainable. And as of right now, it doesn't seem like they've cracked the nut and figured out how to do it.
One more interesting, like, Sony related thing from all this was, you touched on it as well, like how can, and I mean, we discussed it before, like how can Game Pass games be sustainable? Well, like, I think we just had the news, Starfield had 13 million players. But yeah, how many copies were sold? Maybe not even 5 million. And like, before a game like that, we just learned 5 million is kind of needed to break even. I'm sure it broke even, and they're doing like a lot of big updates in 2024, and maybe it will have a renaissance at some point. I don't know, but for what they said is they showed like a chart for Horizon Forbidden West, and that game sold 8 million units, and this like public info after 1 year. And then at one point they put it to boost the PlayStation Plus like extra tier. They put it in the collection there, and it flatlined the sales. So nobody was buying the game anymore because it was on PlayStation Plus extra, while Horizon Zero Dawn still went on in the second year to still sell a couple of million copies, while Forbidden West did not. Might be still that overall the sort of hype level on Zero Dawn was higher than on Forbidden West. Like Zero Dawn is like top 3 PlayStation 4 games in terms of sales. It's almost 20 million. Crazy. While Forbidden West is like still at 8 million, or like maybe reaching the 10, but it has now been played by 14 million people, and those are through PlayStation Plus Extra. So it does show you that obviously putting it on the subscription hurts the sales.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why Jim Ryan kind of walked back their attempt at their own Game Pass, because for a while it seemed like they were going to try to turn PlayStation Plus into Game Pass for PlayStation, and then after like 6 months or a year, they kind of came back and started saying stuff publicly. No, we don't do it that way. We sell our games at full price. We think they deserve full price, blah blah blah. And it's probably because they saw those numbers and are like, it just doesn't work.
No.
It works if you have like 50, 60, 70 million subscribers, but even at like the 25 that Game Pass apparently has, it's unclear if that's even sustainable. Like, there's a real question there.
Yeah, but that is Microsoft. They can just like, they don't care. They have their office money and all that stuff. So
I mean, Game Pass can be a loss leader so long as they are building out studios that can do really high quality stuff, and they're also doing all sorts of other partnership deals with like Samsung to allow game streaming on their TVs. And really, I think that they're just looking to have Xbox be the platform where if you want to play games and you want to do it wirelessly, ultimately is probably their goal for cloud streaming, you do it on Xbox, and PlayStation just won't have that available. And I think that that's not a bad idea, especially in parts of the world where hardware is very expensive, but it also requires and mandates really fast internet, which a lot of the internet or a lot of the world does not have. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Two very, very different approaches.
Yeah, and an IGN article that I linked to you on Discord also showed like Sony sort of like a memo talking about how they're really concerned about Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, and in particular about the Call of Duty threat coming in 2027, because that was like that's like the deal that they signed, so till or until 2027. Sony predicts a massive threat to the subscription service PlayStation Plus, because maybe at that point they can like drop Call of Duty on Game Pass. So yeah, people will maybe switch to Xbox to play Call of Duty there. So I really think like the PlayStation owners, the single player people, probably don't have PS Plus. So the people that Sony has from their own games don't buy PS Plus. It's usually the GTA Online, FIFA, and Call of Duty players. So if they lose like a big part of that, would of course be
well, and it's
huge. But
it's so important for people to just understand, like, we are in gaming every day. We play a lot of different games, but there is a huge number of players out there that only play Call of Duty, that only play FIFA, that only play like the one game that they play. That's what they do with their friends every night when they get back from work, and that's what they do. And for those players, they are the ones that are susceptible to being won over like this, because if they're like, hey, Call of Duty is free over there, like, okay, yeah, I'll just pop over there, whatever. Especially if one of their friends goes over, another one comes over, and then the whole friend group goes over. Like, that's how you could see this whole thing kind of cascade very quickly in Microsoft's favor.
Yeah, for sure. Did you see the rumor about the new Xbox maybe launching in 2026?
Yeah, like, we talked about that last week. They called it like the Xbox Next, I think.
Yeah, that was just like a way to make sure that people don't think that it's like a pro console. I don't think it's like called Xbox Next.
Yeah.
I think that Insider was just like, the next like Xbox. Yeah. So
I heard Jeff Grubb, I think he's the one that was initially talking about it on his podcast, and he was saying that they were looking to basically start their next generation 2 years early, because everybody's kind of expecting PlayStation to probably do the PS6 in like 2028. And so for Xbox to come along and just be like, nope, 2026, new hardware, it's cutting edge for 2026. And no Series S, maybe. We'll see.
God, yeah.
And we're just going to start our generation earlier, and all of their massive studios will be working on games for that platform. And for that 2-year period, they'll be able to say, no, our games are the most cutting edge. They have the most power behind them. They are the most up to date. They look the best compared to PlayStation games. Like, they can actually say that, and it's all true because they will have very updated hardware and a brand new console refresh. And then Sony will get to say that in 2028 when they update their console 2 years later, and we could see a situation where you see a staggered console generation cycle, which would be like the first time in probably 20 plus years that this has happened, because they've generally been pretty lined up for as long as I can remember. So it could be really weird.
It's just not helping Microsoft right now, because if people walk into the store and they see two identical systems, and the other has Spider-Man on the box and the other has Halo, which is not the same anymore as it was, and people just still don't really get Game Pass because they just want to play Call of Duty or GTA Online or whatever, then they still are going to PlayStation because, and probably their friends kind of have it now as well. So I mean, it worked for the 360 generation. They were, of course, the first 1 year earlier than the PS3. And of course, Sony shot themselves in the foot as well during the start of that generation. But it will be I think it would be super smart, I think.
Yeah.
Because for me, because they also kind of did it with the One X, because that was 1 year after the PS4 Pro. It was also significantly more powerful. So if you really wanted the 4K, PS4 Pro was always upscale 4K. It was never the real thing.
Yeah.
While the Xbox One X, if you had the Digital Foundry videos, it was always the best console. So for third-party games, I was actually, while normally mostly being a PlayStation person, going to Xbox to get the best experience. And I would totally do that again. While right now, my Series X, I played Starfield on it. And I really rarely use it. Backwards compatibility is still great though. Like some Assassin's Creed games are like 60 FPS on Xbox Series X, while still being 30 on PS4 5. So but those are like cases, like very rare cases. But I think it would be super smart for them, and that would kill off the Series S as well, which we know is like kind of an issue for some developers. So
well, and it's just at the end of the day, right now, and the stats recently that have dropped on console sales, if that's what Sony and Microsoft actually care about, the stats are very clear that Xbox is losing the console war pretty badly in terms of physical console sales. And so from their perspective, why continue to fight a losing game? Why not try to change the rules a little bit and start their generation earlier? It's not a bad idea. I mean, because if they wait till 2028, they're just giving Sony the chance to once again.
Issue.
It's just going to be the same story, second verse. So it's not a bad idea.
And then you do have the best version of Call of Duty or the best version of GTA 6 or whatever. Like
they could brand it all as like they did. They wouldn't be breaking anything they said during the FTC hearings. No. They'd just be like, no, it's the next generation of Call of Duty. PlayStation hasn't launched their next generation yet. They're just behind. Like, and it would be true.
Yeah, and we made the best version possible on PS5. But there is a better console now out there. Yeah.
Their console's 6 years old. What do you want us to do?
Noobs. No, that's interesting.
So I totally buy that they're doing that. I would totally buy that they're doing that.
Yeah, I think that would be very smart with them.
I mean, I guess another thing we can address that we have not kind of same in the similar sphere as Sony.
Yeah, I'm kind of like looking at the chat if there maybe have some people.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Emerald is saying like didn't the same happen for Xbox 360? Like 1 year earlier. So that was was a big play for them. Like that was the only generation that they were close. Of course, at the end, PS3 I think still. I mean, they were very similar. Let's talk about Last of Us Factions. And of course, if you are watching and have questions or something, maybe it's fun to do like more of a Q&A episode this time, because there has of course been some news. I think the Insomniac news is the biggest, but a lot of the other news, like we did not talk about Game Awards yet, but you've probably already discussed it many times on your live show. I think there are still some important announcements that I kind of got in front of me that we could go over as sort of a thing. I put like a PS5 Pro, but we already kind of discussed that. I thought your sort of take on what if GTA 6 is only 60 on PS5 Pro? I still thought it was brilliant because that would be such a cool moment. Such like a big thing.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
That would cause some drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's if anybody has any questions, toss them in chat. We'd love to hear those. I mean, we at this point the news about the Last of Us factions it's been out there for a minute, but it's just, I think, frustrating for everybody that was kind of excited or interested in it. I was interested in it because I thought the idea of a like battle royale but with the gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2, I was like, that sounds actually pretty cool. I'd be down for that. And they've spent years and years working on it. They had the Days Gone team working on it. They had, Naughty Dog working on it.
Is it confirmed?
Well, they said that they were working with Naughty Dog on a project that
was
like
Uncharted, right?
It was a multiplayer thing. I think they said specifically was that it was a multiplayer thing with Naughty Dog. Maybe I'm just making that part up though.
Because I know there was a rumor that after Days Gone shipped, of course, I think you discussed that as well. That of course, that didn't do well. They pitched Days Gone 2, did not happen. But then, so they were like, okay, what are we gonna do now? And Sony, of course, was like, hey, Uncharted is like a 15 million plus seller. Why don't you guys work on that? And they, of course, did Uncharted Golden Abyss on Vita. So, but that is, of course, like a downgrade from going to your own new IP to being a support studio for Naughty Dog again, and probably not having the. I mean, that is what also happened with Last of Us Part 1. That was first made by a support team from Sony, but because like the people at Naughty Dog were so hands-on, the people that were working on it were like, we don't have any control over this, and then they moved it in-house to Naughty Dog. So yeah, that's what also happened with Sony Bend. I think they were working on an Uncharted game, and then they were like, we don't want to do this, and now they're doing their own new IP with multiplayer as well, and the Days Gone open world systems. I think that's kind of the.
I mean, it's just with all this, it's just really frustrating that they spent years and years, at the very least, tens upon tens of millions of dollars working on this. There's former and current Naughty Dog employees that are saying that out of everything they've done in their career, The Last of Us Online was the thing they were the most proud of. Like, there's a lot of people that said that they really liked what they had put together there, and that the news of this cancellation was kind of a surprise to everybody. But it just seems like. Go ahead.
Oh, it's so weird that this one line. So we had two paths in front of us. Of course, they had like a blog post talking about the cancellation. Become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined the Naughty Dog's heritage. That was kind of the thing that at one point happened. Like, how can you go from working on this multiplayer game, there's QA, like we now see with the Insomniac leak how much planning there is, how many spreadsheets there are, presentations about this is what we're gonna do, this is blah blah. How at one point, like this sentence feels like we're like, here we were ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambitious game clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we would have to put all the studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. How can that go? How is it possible to suddenly realize that while you have been working on this game for 4 years?
Yeah.
It's so wild.
The vibe I got was that I don't think this was the first time they had probably told Sony executives this, or like Jim Ryan's team this, but the vibe I got, and this is purely speculation, so just to be clear with everybody, what I think happened is that they probably told the executives that this is probably what was going to happen. They're like, hey guys, like this would turn us into a live service studio if you wanted to do this. And they're like, no, we'll do it. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to be easier than you think. We'll get you support from other studios if we need to, but you'll be fine. And so they worked on this, built it. And then we know that they had the Bungie review. Bungie came in, looked at it, and said that they didn't think, I think specifically what they said was that they didn't think it was going to engage players over the long term.
Yeah, sticky enough.
Which to me sounds like they weren't happy with like post-launch support, expansions, like end game content, stuff like that. specifically the things that would require long-term development resources to be placed on The Last of Us Online. So I think after Bungie came in, said, nope, endgame support, long-term support isn't where it would need to be. They went back and Naughty Dog worked on what they would need to do to satisfy Bungie's requirements. And then it was this crazy list of tons of stuff and expansions and battle passes and this and that and this and that. And then they went back to Sony executives and said, look at all the stuff we need to do to fulfill Bungie's requirements. To do this, we need twice the employees or we're never doing a single player game again. Do you really want that? And then they just kind of left it in their court and they decided, you know what? We're better off probably winning Game of the Year with Naughty Dog titles than maybe. And like that doesn't even guarantee, if they did commit to doing all of that for years, that doesn't even guarantee it would be profitable at the end of the day. Like,
no.
So I
think that's kind of what's happening with Rocksteady right now. Like they just dropped their new insider video and I just watched it, and at the end they're like, we have so much free content, blah blah blah, and they are a relatively small studio in the AAA space, believe it or not. Like their full team is working on this. So probably if Suicide Squad is this biggest success ever, we're not gonna see a single player Rocksteady game again.
Yeah.
Which will probably not happen, but there is always a chance. I think you're probably right. I still think that's like a huge oversight though, to not look at Anthem, to not look at Avengers. Like Crystal Dynamics went through the exact same issues. They also promised huge story, because I think probably what this game was about is that, because they have been talking about it as well here and there, that we also want to like include the Naughty Dog storytelling. So maybe they had seasons where you would follow these survivors or whatever, and then see, kind of like a TV show. So you would have a story, and the next season that story would continue, but that would probably include highly like expensive cutscenes that we expect from Naughty Dog, and those missions would probably be 3 hours or whatever, and then they would spend all this money on that, and that would not be sustainable probably, or not release content fast enough for people to consume them. And that is what happens with Avengers as well. It's just still interesting, and also there were people that were like, let's turn this pretty easy sort of competitive mode into this thing that nobody asked for. I don't think anyone was like, no, I want this be the battle royale that I play forever with my grandchildren. Like everyone was like, I just want to play factions because I had a ton of fun. And the part 2 gameplay is even better than the first, way better, I would say. So it's gonna be like very cool to play, and there are still people playing factions without DLC for that game. So it's just so much mismanagement here, and probably you're right what happened, but it's kind of like still crazy that they had to have Bungie come in to give them that feedback.
I just think it's the executives that were the decision makers. They didn't view Naughty Dog as the experts in multiplayer and in live service games. They thought Bungie were them. So they valued Bungie's opinion when Bungie came in and said, nope, this wouldn't be successful, wouldn't work. So then they actually listened to them. And then when they're seeing what it would take to follow Bungie's recommendation, it's like, oh, wait, no, we don't want to give up all of the Naughty Dog single player stuff. The whole idea was that you do both. And I think it's just, we've seen it so often in the last like 3-4 years, and we're still seeing it today. It's just that these executives, for whatever reason, think that if there's a studio that's good at making X type of game, and they can make world-class versions of that genre, that they can then just go and do the same thing but live service, and it'll be just as successful. Oh, you made The Last of Us Part 2? Okay, that won tons of Game of the Year awards. Easy, awesome. So now just make a Game of the Year level online live service game. Just do that. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just take the world-class single-player narrative cinematic developer and have them do a multiplayer game. It doesn't just convert like that. And especially not the long-term support. And I think a lot of executives are now realizing that with all of these games being put out by these devs with amazing histories that are just not clicking because they're not the same thing.
And also like going back to you also kind of see the Sony moving away from the live service thing in the Insomniac League, without like talking about it too much, but you do see that something behind the scenes happened, even before this Factions game got canceled, that damn, this is harder than we think. And
Yeah.
yeah, I talked about it before, like the London studio game, like the people that made like a Sing. I don't. Did they make SingStar? Maybe they did. Or and the Blood and Truth VR game and VR Worlds. They're now probably going to make the next Fortnite. Yeah, you believe it? No, let them make a fun. I don't know, other type of game. But
Yeah.
hey,
It's
we will
just
see.
it's naivete, it's perhaps overconfidence, to say the very least, dare I say arrogance from the executive staff, and it's just unfortunately one of these things that seemingly has to be learned the hard way. Like, I'm sure the devs are very knowledgeable of what they're capable of and what they can't do, and these devs are probably telling the executives, hey guys, we make single player games, we don't do this kind of thing, and the executives are just like, yeah, you'll figure it out, that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
We're not
their
asking.
previous multiplayer game was SingStar Ultimate Party. I'm sure they will do another great.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. They can take on
they
the
had
epic
post-launch
machine.
content.
Yeah.
They had like new songs every week.
Yeah.
I'm sure they can release big content.
Did you even hear the songs? They were awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
jeez.
Oh, we got a donation there. You want to pick that up?
Yeah, sure. Here, let me pop over there. Okay. Alphatron, the one and only. Thank you for the $9.99. These developers have wasted so much time on crappy online games trying to be Fortnite. I think we could have gotten some really good games if these studios weren't so focused on the battle royale, etc. Yeah, and that's what's, I think, most heartbreaking, is it's just wasted time. Amazingly talented devs that sometimes their work is released in the form of like a Redfall or you know, one of these other kind of live service games like Marvel's Avengers or something, and it just, they're not very good. But other times, like with The Last of Us Online, it just never even sees the light of day. It's just years of wasted work for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in part 3, because that was like kind of the good news about this blog post, that they're not doing 1 but 2 single player games. Like, one of them has to be part 3. Maybe we go to San Francisco and beat some characters that were like, hey, wasn't that in the concept art of the Last of Us Online game? I'm sure they will make use of some of the things. And I agree that at one point, that I feel that there have been too many cases of this. I would have hoped that, looking at Crystal Dynamics, BioWare, Fallout 76, you can like put that up as well. That sure still getting supported, but was kind of a disaster, of course. Like, you would have hoped that they realized sooner. But on the other hand, and that happens over and over again. Also in real life, you sometimes have to make the mistake yourself to know that you should not do it. And now Sony has made their mistake, and maybe this means that from now on, Naughty Dog is the single player only team, and for whatever reason they had to get that sort of confirmation. And yeah, maybe that helps all the other teams realize as well, okay, let's not try and do this stuff that we don't know, but let's focus on what actually works. And it's crazy because Xbox seems to actually get that. They are, I mean, Redfall, of course, was made before Microsoft bought Bethesda. Of course, they should have still been like, hey, maybe not do it. We heard, of course, behind the scenes stories where the developers was like, we were really hoping that Phil Spencer would come in to cancel the game, and he did not.
Which is so funny.
Yeah, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, it does seem that they are going to, okay, compulsion games, what do you want to make? And they come up with this like pretty cool artsy kind of vibe game that hopefully looks really cool, or hopefully is really cool. So they are mostly making single player games over there, because yeah, that is what Game Pass facilitates. Like, they just need cool, and yeah, it's the Netflix model. It has to be the word of mouth. Hey, you gotta check that out. It's on or on Game Pass. And yeah, they make the games that the developers seem to be more passionate about, and they don't have to be the live service endless money generators, because Game Pass is the live service here. So I think that
Yeah.
is interesting. And Sony is just, well, we all see from the Insomniac League, struggling. That's also what their internal memo kind of said, talking about how they're kind of scared of Activision. They were really like, our pillars, our massive AAA, hundreds of millions of dollars tentpole games that we can now only release once per year. I mean, 2024 might not even have one of those games. Like, they are too expensive, and the profit is like getting lower and lower. That is not the future for us. So what are we gonna do? It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, we are at a very interesting kind of crossroads in the industry where some of them are pivoting towards live service. Microsoft is doing live service, but as a service to provide games and deliver games. So the individual products don't matter as much to Microsoft as long as you're subscribed to the platform that delivers it to you. And then PlayStation is trying to go the good old classic way of distributing games. And we're going to see which one works. Because I have a feeling that this next like 5-6 year period, as things, double down even more into cloud computing, into the next generation of hardware, into, like server-based AI and stuff like that, I think there's probably only one of these models that really is sustainable and makes sense. And I think one of them is going to fail spectacularly and get the parent company in some trouble. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
For sure. And like Sony, I mean, on the other hand, you now have Sony announcing they've sold 50 million PS5s. So like their whole tactic has been, let's make sure that people just like that they get their digital library on PS5, so that when the next Xbox comes around, even though it might be enticing with Game Pass, they're still like, but I'm losing I'm not switching from iPhone to Android. Like, they hope that kind of sticks and saves them in the future. But maybe Microsoft is like, appeasing to a whole new group of people that, I mean, friends of mine are like, I want to play X game, but I'm not going to buy a console for it, right?
Yeah.
So if they can just stream it from their TV, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I did see some questions, by the way, but they've been kind of like, up in the chat. Like, it has been a while. We have Leo Lee Gaming saying, how excited are you for Wukong or Rise of the Ronin? Have you discussed those games?
Wukong, I think that one looks really interesting. Rise of the Ronin, I don't think we know enough to really say a whole lot. At least I don't know enough to really say much of anything. But Wukong looks crazy.
Yeah, I played it at Gamescom. Still, it's really, really, it was like kind of as good as you hope. That demo, at least. And them having it playable, of course, does show some confidence. August 20th. Still can see it get delayed, but it at least seems to be closer. But I think that will be a special game in 2024. And Rise of the Ronin, they had that cool open world sort of trailer, the first one, and that looked really cool. But the new one kind of put me back at the realistic sort of like feet on the ground. It looked a lot like Neo. It's of course the Wolong Neo team. They also did the Stranger of Paradise game from Final Fantasy. So it does seem to be a bit better than that in terms of quality. Like, Sony is helping develop it as well. They're publishing it. So it does seem to have a higher budget a bit. But I do worry that it's might show like it's not that big of a AAA game as you might expect. And it's coming out on the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2, which is like, why?
Yeah, why do that to yourself?
Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop.
It's probably the final date for their financial year that they can like still release it, I guess, and have it make sense. So I think that's probably the reason, but it's still
toss it out, hope people buy it, and just have it downloaded to play later, I guess. Yeah. Leo, I also think your point, Game Pass also made Xbox pointless for those of us that also game on PC. I totally agree. I mean, that's where I'm at, where I have an Xbox. I've had a Series S sitting on the shelf here since I moved in. And it used to be set up in the studio. like as another thing I could just switch inputs to, just like the PlayStation. But I've had zero reason to boot it up or use it, and it's just because if you can play on PC, just play it on PC. Which most stuff that's on Xbox is also on PC, and I agree that like as Game Pass gets more and more popular and people subscribe on PC or use cloud gaming to play, it really diminishes the value of having the Xbox itself. And I think that is, I think it's perhaps a flaw if they want to sell a lot of Xboxes. But I think assuming that Xbox's goal is to sell hardware and that's kind of their front priority, I think that that's a flawed assumption, because every discussion that Satya or Phil have had when talking to specifically business publications about this stuff, it's always about service. It's always about trying to find a way to make this like Joe Raptor said earlier, which I thought was fantastic, is just that PlayStation's pushing for games as a service and having individual titles as the live service mechanic to bring in money. And Microsoft has just flipped it on its head. Oh, Jesus. Flipped it on its head and decided, oh, we're going to have the platform be the live service, and the games can be individual single-player games that are awesome. Real quick, thank you, Sean. Poggers to Sean. Sean is one of our patron saints of the channel.
Wow.
Much love to Sean.
Amazing.
$100 dues. Missed the stream. Great podcast. Is growing. Well done, guys. Thank you, my friend Sean. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Wednesday as well. Thank you. Very generous. Yeah, Sean alone keeps this channel afloat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, it's just, I think they're like just as polar opposite approaches to the console thing war as you could possibly have, where PlayStation is old school as old school comes, where it's sell consoles and then sell full price games for those consoles. That's what they do. And Microsoft's trying something very different, where they sell you a subscription model every month that you're paying into, and then those games are delivered to you through that platform, and they're going to see if those consistent revenues beat out the occasional spikes in revenue that PlayStation gets. Because like Joe Raptor said, it only really works if you have those big games to drive those full price $70 sales and console purchases, which doesn't, it's not clear if they have one for 2024.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's wild. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, and I heard this just a week ago, where now it's aged poorly, but somebody was like, oh, they're gonna just like shadow drop Wolverine at the end of next year, and that's what they're gonna do. That's why they haven't announced anything. And now that seems silly. But it's just like they I think if they had something, we'd probably know about it. And it's weird that we haven't really heard much of anything other than these like third party that they're publishing, or I guess second party that they're publishing.
I think they're still dropping that Atreus game at the end of the year, which will be kind of big, but that doesn't move the needle. I mean, Xbox has Hellblade 2, they have Avowed, they have Call of Duty, probably Game Pass Day 1 maybe. So yeah, they have a pretty substantial lineup, and also some other Game Pass games that we already know if I actually know them, because I made a...
Well, here's a question, and thank you DVG for becoming a member on YouTube. Thank you. Here's a question. Do they bring the Atreus game to PS4 as well? Or do you think it's next gen exclusive?
No. I think it's gonna be, because that's what we've been seeing. Like we have for Horizon Burning Shores, which was only a PS5. And like at one point they have to move on, and it's also for the developers. Like that's what we're seeing now, or with The Last of Us Part 1 as well. What we heard mostly was, because that's kind of like, I saw on Twitter an image where it was like, Naughty Dog in the PS3 generation, Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Last of Us. Naughty Dog in the PS4 generation, Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, and Last of Us Part 2. And then PS5 generation is Part 1, Part 2, Uncharted Collection.
Yeah.
So far they've only launched like remasters or remakes, quote unquote. And like that doesn't look great. And then you hear the multiplayer game is canceled. But what it seems that the teams that are making those are mostly like new recruits. that are kind of like getting to know the franchise and also working on the new hardware. Like that's what we usually see also with those director's cuts for Ghost of Tsushima. Like they're just getting used, getting to work with the PS5 and all those enhancements they're gonna use on the second game as well. Like I'm sure for the Burning Shores they made this crazy weather tech and the cloud technology and whatever. Horizon 3 will totally use that as well. So yeah, they can use that work for other things as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that will be the same for Santa Monica. They will do some cool technical stuff that they can then use in the future too. And I mean, launching a PS4 game in 2024, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I agree.
Stop.
I don't think they should. But I was also surprised that Valhalla launched on PS4 as well. Granted, it was a free update. It's not like an expansion.
Oh no, that's the wrong game.
Oh yeah, different. You're like, of course it did, Luke.
Not a Ragnarok. Valhalla.
But like that launched on PS4
that's true.
as well. But then again, it's a free update, and it's not the same as like a $40 thing, or probably more likely $50. But we'll see. Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima 2, that's also one I think everybody's waiting on. But honestly, I don't think they've had enough time because Iki Island was 2021, and that only gives them.
They did the Legends mode.
Yeah,
the Legends multiplayer in 2020 as well. Yeah, so they had like 3 full years to work on the sequel, and they're a small team relatively.
Yeah.
So no, it seems really that for the sequels they need 5 years at least. Like Spider-Man 2 was 5 years as well. Miles was a different team. Horizon was 5 years as well. COVID of course happened, but yeah, Ghost or Sucker Punch developed also mostly during COVID. So I think it's 2025 at the earliest, sadly.
Yeah. Do you think
they maybe are scared of Assassin's Creed Red?
I mean, here's a question, and this is something that I think is becoming more and more obvious that it might be necessary. We've gone through a lot in this episode about the exorbitant cost involved with these AAA games, or rather quadruple A games, when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think one of the things that Spider-Man 2 kind of played with was a smaller scope in terms of story length and gameplay runtime. It's still amazing to me how expensive Spider-Man 2 seemingly was to develop, considering the actual amount of gameplay within the game. I mean, you can platinum it in like 25-ish hours. So do you think we're going to see a sort of effort from PlayStation to kind of cut back on scope, allow their teams to make those 15-hour games at $70 instead of trying to push 40, 50 hours every time they do something?
I think that's interesting because Ragnarok, I think Spider-Man is still kind of the sort of sole game that was the same size as the first one, because what we usually see with sequels, Ragnarok was 2 times the size of 2018. Horizon Forbidden West was way larger as well. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was bigger as well. Like for some reason for Spider-Man, they didn't want to go that way. So, and I agree. I think it's also interesting, but that just shows you, because I think it was a lot of it was cinematics that are just so expensive to do. And of course, the amount of sort of set pieces, every main mission had explosions and stuff that, for example, in a Ubisoft game, you only see in the first hour and in the last hour.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man had that throughout the whole game. So yeah, that is probably a big part of it. But I don't know. I hope not. I think it would be sad if they will diminish their vision or cut back on things. In those games that of course every game has cut content and stuff, but it will feel weird to go from Forbidden West to Horizon 3 and there will be like 20 hours less missions.
Yeah.
I would be like, what is going on here? Why?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out where they can cut some fat, because they're just drowning in expense right now. And I like, as we've said, it's not really sustainable, and they've got to figure out a way to do it. But then again, like Spider-Man 2 is a shorter game, and it's not, like by every metric, it was not very cheap to make. They apparently didn't save much money. So it's not always about just playtime hours. It's about a lot of other elements to it
Yeah,
as
I mean,
well.
and I mean that is of course the critique with the. I mean, Valhalla of course took it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I now have to say, took it to a whole new level in terms of like the way too big with like way too much like stuff that didn't really matter. Um, but yeah, that is kind of what is happening where sometimes the content is just not on the same level. And with Insomniac, they wanted to make sure that every hour was something crazy. But I think where they will get the money is from reusing these mechanics. Like Miles Morales was a 1.5 game.
Hmm.
Obviously, it improved on a lot of things, and it helped that it was a PS5 launch game, so it had the 60 FPS. Like it felt like a new experience. While it was kind of the same, we did not see the same traversal improvements versus what we saw in Spider-Man 2. So, I mean, we will probably see that with the Atreus game as well. Like we already have Atreus playable. They even had like one like sort of move set that he only does at the end of the game once. I'm
Hmm.
sure they will reuse that and expand on that. So I think that is where I mean, Wolverine might probably or will probably use a lot of Spider-Man things as well, and that might feel kind of like a cop out in some sense because it's of course a completely different character. But why not? Why not do it? I mean, Ubisoft has been doing this for many years with all their Assassin's Creed games, and sure, some people are like, I remember when Odyssey for the first time there were leaked screenshots, and there was like, this looks like Origins. Then
Hmm.
we got the game. Sure, it still was a lot like Origins, but if you really look at it, it is a completely different experience. And yeah, that is how Ubisoft has been doing it as well. So I think that is what their approach will be. And of course, I mean, we get an Horizon Online game. Of course, it's easier said than done, but they already made a lot of machines. So I'm sure
Yeah.
they're gonna use all those animations again and all the sort of bow animations that Aloy is using for those characters. So I think that is the way for them forward. And yeah, launch more of those $50 way cheaper games. Again, Miles was 90 million, Spider-Man 2 was 300 million. But then yeah, the profit will be way higher. So I think that is the way to go. But I don't hope that yeah, we are seeing that right now we're at the peak. I don't hope that that's the case. That they're kind of tooling
Hmm.
down. That would be sad. But
Yeah, no, it's just been such a weird generation so far because it feels like right like the last year is when we would normally start to get a lot of these amazing next generation exclusive games that just showcase the hardware and showcase what the top tier talent has been working on. And instead, a lot of that top tier talent has just been AFK or they've been weirdly quiet and they've been forcing to do live service stuff. And I just hope we start to hear from them soon. And it seems like this coming year, there's actually going to be a lot of stuff. It's probably not going to be anything like 2023. 2023 was like a once in a decade year of just crazy good games dropping like it's nothing. But I'm excited.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah, same. I think there are like yeah, I think that yeah, I'm like a huge Final Fantasy fan. So Rebirth, of course, coming in February already. We already touched on Black Myth Wukong. I think
Mm,
Star Wars Outlaws. I really have hope that I think it will be better than Avatar for sure.
I think so.
I think yeah, I think that might really be like an 8 out of 10 Metacritic Ubisoft game. I really hope so. I mean, we already know the Frostbite engine is amazing in terms of like graphical quality, and this game has been like in development for, or like, I mean, it started way later, so I think they could way better utilize the new
Yeah.
technology. So
A lot of the
I'm
biggest
really
problems with Avatar were just that there were so many little things that it was like I can tell that was made like 6 years ago.
yeah
Like
it's really like an old way of doing a Ubisoft game. Yeah, probably the final one that we will see.
mm,
Yeah, with that design philosophy. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the games that are coming. Again, Hellblade 2 should be cool, I hope.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm we might see the Splinter Cell remake. Like that has been in development for 3 years at the end of next year, so I don't think you want to spend too much time on that. But I do think that Summer Game Fest will probably reveal some big titles that we're not thinking of right now. for next year.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting shift, and I think seeing the PS5 Pro potentially coming next year. There's rumors also potentially of a Switch update as well happening, so we could have a good amount of new hardware next year, and along with those, you'd expect some games that have been built specifically to take advantage of that hardware. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be.
Danny saying Bloodlines 2. I think that's Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I should not really put too much into that. It has shifted developers. They're now saying end of 2024. It just seems like an investor thing.
Yeah.
I see Mr. Boogle saying Frostbite engine goated. Did I say Frostbite or did I say Snowdrop? I don't know.
I think you said Frostbite. Yeah.
Did I say Frostbite? Okay, then I mean
Snowdrop.
Right,
Snowdrop.
Okay, yeah.
I encourage people.
Snowdrop, Frostbite,
they're weirdly similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I encourage anybody who's interested in game development, go watch those Digital Foundry videos on the Avatar game and the engine stuff that they do there. It is ridiculous, some of the stuff they're able to do in that. It makes me all the more excited for Star Wars Outlaws and also for Assassin's Creed Red and Far Cry.
No, I mean Red won't use Snowdrop.
Well, a lot of the same software engineers and stuff that are pushing the boundaries with Snowdrop, I think, are probably also helping with optimizations on that side too. Wouldn't you think?
Okay.
Like I would think if they're pushing the boundaries so far over here, they're probably also pushing boundaries over here. I would assume.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like the Snowdrop was always kind of the division. Always had okay, but maybe I'm thinking now of the first reveal trailers. Division always looked great, but it was mostly the locations though that looked awesome, and that's kind of what's happening with Avatar as well. Assassin's Creed also kind of looked great, but of course because of the sort of nature of those games, like the huge open worlds. I don't know. I think that Outlaws will look better than Red, for example.
Yeah, I could see that.
Probably.
I mean, I think it's also I'm just excited to get an actual next generation Assassin's Creed game, because Mirage, I had fun with Mirage, but it was clear that this was they were using a tool set from a different game, and that it was just Valhalla but kind of reworked a little bit. But
for sure,
we'll see here. Oh yeah, RS Nos. I guess we can kind of start to wrap up with this one. Avatar is on sale for $50. Weird for a game that just came out. I mean, I've seen people bring this up too, and I think it would be weird if it were literally any other time of the year. I think right before Christmas, their goal for Avatar is I call it the grandma effect. They want that game to be sitting on stores in Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and they want little old grandma to walk in to get a stocking stuffer for little Jimmy to see Avatar and be like, oh, I've seen that at the pictures, and oh, it's a video game and it's on sale. What a deal. And they want her to grab it, go check out, put it in the stocking. That's their goal. Like if they had it at full price, that sort of impulse buy right before Christmas might be lessened. Whereas if somebody sees this video game that has name recognition, I think people are a lot more likely to just impulsively grab it as a quick gift for somebody. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Does it mean the game's a flop? Maybe, but I wouldn't bank on it too much. If it's still 40% off in a week and a half.
Number 5. It came in at number 5. Avatar.
I think
that's not good.
I think a lot of people also, at least this is totally anecdotal, but I have 3 or 4 friends that signed up for Ubisoft or Uplay specifically for Avatar, because they're like, I think I'm gonna know within a few hours if I'm gonna finish this, so I'm gonna pay $15, try it, and see what it's like. And go from there. So I think a lot of people probably also did that.
Yeah, but that's of course only possible on Xbox and PC. Not on PlayStation. I think.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
But still, launching an Avatar game, and I saw some people earlier in the year compare this to Hogwarts Legacy because they're both licensed, and Avatar are movies.
Oh, no.
They're even, and it sold less than Hogwarts Legacy.
Harry Potter, though. Harry Potter fans are on another level. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's another planet. I think Avatar is like something people go see the movies once, whereas like Harry Potter is something people build their personalities around. Like I went on a date once, like a Tinder date years ago, and I was like,
How
"Hey,
nerdy stuff
nice to
is.
finally meet you. I'm Luke." And they're like, "Oh yes, I'm whatever her name
What
was."
house are you?
And she said, "I'm not kidding." She was like, "Yeah, and I'm a Ravenclaw. What are you?" Like people tie this into their personalities, dude.
No.
It's another. I've never heard of
I
somebody being
probably
like, "I'm a not V." Like nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that.
What side of Pandora are you
Yeah.
from if you could choose?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
clan?
If you could recruit an Ecron, what would you name
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Like, nobody's doing that.
Are you using an assault rifle or a shotgun?
Yeah, exactly.
What? Okay,
Oh,
that's
God.
pretty cool. And what did you do? What happened then? Was it like a red flag and you were like,
I mean, for that, she was one of the people that like definitely I didn't realize at the time, but on her Tinder profile she had a handful of pictures, and they were always like with friends. And she had very covertly arranged the pictures to heavily imply she was actually one of the other friends, because she would like center the picture around one of her other friends, and then she'd be standing
ooh,
off to the side. So like, I got catfished pretty hard on that one.
okay.
Because I was like, I thought
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
the one in the middle, because if you
That's
center the
always a red
picture.
flag if people do that. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
that's
like, I don't know a lot of
well,
happy relationships that start with catfishing. You
no,
know,
no,
like,
no.
it was bad. But anyway, yeah, that was the
Yeah,
whole thing.
that does prove your point. The Harry Potter people are crazy.
Yeah, they're on another level,
Um,
dude.
but maybe they can date in the Harry Potter GTA Online next year. You never know,
Dude, if
right?
they
It's gonna
did that,
happen,
I'd lose it.
right?
I'm actually surprised we've not seen like Harry Potter Fortnite crossovers. I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
I mean, did Warner do any crossovers with them?
Well, they've done Batman, haven't they? Or have they not? Am I just making that up? Maybe they haven't done
It's
Batman.
so hard. It's
There's
so
so
hard
many,
to
but
keep
also
up.
Batman.
I think Batman is in Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in
What?
Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but what other? But
Um,
that was like for the movie, I think. So that's like maybe that's like the sort of cross promotion they're looking for,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I guess so. So they did that.
I mean, they did not do like Joker. Oh wait, they did a complete list of all DC skins. I have like Black Adam, of course,
Oh yeah, of course.
and some characters that Aquaman. He will be
Aquaman.
back for the new movie. Yeah,
Yeah. They got to make money somehow. I mean,
yeah.
it's not going to be at the box office.
Black Manta. No.
Um,
Okay, they did quite some skins. I'm surprised that they didn't do Harry Potter yet. Yeah,
Epic does
that
not-
would be like a Harry Potter season in Fortnite. Oh my lord!
Can you
Oh
imagine?
my
The internet would melt.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that would be the new peak.
Yeah,
I really. If they have like a map with like the castle.
yeah, and then they give you
Yeah,
like an item
maybe
that's.
they don't want the guns. Maybe that's it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't want the guns.
Maybe
because
that's it.
Yeah, because of course, like all ages.
Can you
Because
imagine?
it's so weird that there is no gun in Harry
Like
Potter.
a young teenage Harry Potter, just like I can see why they wouldn't want that. Okay, that's
Or, like,
a really good
turn
point.
all the freaking guns into like wands for that season, and then, but yeah, then you can't like have the Harry Potter skin next season
Yeah,
because then he would be using an AR.
that's a
That
good
might
point.
probably be it, but they might do because they are doing the age restricted levels, right? So maybe they will
Yeah.
have like an age restricted season or something. I don't know.
I don't know,
But,
but that would break the internet. Yeah, Dumbledore with a gun. Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, Jory, you should look it up. It's just Harry Potter with guns, because they just go in with After Effects and they like replace all the wands with pistols, and so like you see Hermione knock out. Oh gosh, what's his name? I don't remember his name. But yeah, it's very very good. There's some amazing amazing clips. I think it is just Harry Potter with guns.
Harry Potter guns.
Yeah, Harry Potter with guns dash HD. It's very very
But
good.
yeah, get the ones in Fortnite and the flying brooms. Yeah, Emerald is that would already be great, and that would be, yeah, totally possible.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
Easy peasy, easy money, easy money.
Yeah. But Warner want the money for themselves, you know.
Classic Warner. Tell you what, those guys, man, those guys.
didn't we didn't you want to talk about something else, and then I kind of
No, the first thing I was gonna bring up
uh
was I think originally the Last of Us factions.
I
Everything
by the way have a
else.
code for part 2, so we'll be playing that over the break.
Oh really? Oh
The
awesome.
no rush. Yeah, I can
That's how
only
to
say
do
that I
it.
have a code. Because that's so crazy that there's like another roguelite or light. Yeah, it's a light, road light.
Yeah.
Mode coming a month later from Sony.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. I
It
mean,
makes me wonder
Ubisoft
if that.
has been doing that for a while. They of course did the Forgotten Saga for Valhalla Assassin's Creed. They did the Far Cry DLCs. They were roguelites as well. And Watch Dogs, I'm not sure if you remember this, Legion had a zombie mode that was roguelite.
I didn't remember
So
that.
no, they very like it only launched on PC. It was very in alpha stage. It was really weird. Um, but yeah, that was also a thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder if that's like one of their ways of training new recruits is to have them work. Like, you want to get to know the combat system, you're going to build a roguelike mode. Like, it's
Yeah, and
probably a really good way of doing it.
yeah, and it's just an easy way to reuse all the assets because yeah, it's random and replayable, and that's of course like the issue that all these games, single player games, run into. That also what we saw with Assassin's Creed Valhalla updates, they hyped up, whoa, we have the roadmap. On Tuesday, we're gonna drop this new mission, and then I would be streaming for 30 minutes, and then I had completed the mission, and then I would have to wait a month again for yeah a new content.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, of course, with the roguelites, you can keep playing, which is kind of the idea. And I think yeah, Valhalla was like the God of War. It's totally like the best iteration of that I played with the amount of
Yeah.
new enemies that they threw in. Really, really cool.
And the story stuff too is very surprising to me.
Yeah,
I wasn't ready for that, but no spoilers. There's a
no,
lot of narrative stuff in that too.
yeah,
So,
for sure. Did you see my tweet about that's actually an interesting point that I wanted to throw your way. So 11.5 of all the God of War, I'm gonna like, yeah, I can share the tweet as well, or you can like look at my profile. 11.5% of all the God of War Ragnarok players on PS5 have played the free Valhalla DLC, and 3.3% have beaten it, and it launched like a week ago. Um,
oh, that's crazy.
but I looked at the DLC attach rate for the other DLCs from Sony games, and what you see that it's all around that 10%. So right now 11.5% played the God of War Ragnarok DLC, but for Burning Shores it was 7.7. For the Spidey One Black Cat DLC it was 16.8. So basically it does not seem that to reach like a completely new audience. And I think that the people that have played the Valhalla DLC would have probably paid for it as well.
Yeah, I think I would
Because
have paid for it if it was like 10, $20. I think so.
yeah, no, me too. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it's free, but you would think that launching free content, one of the incentives is to maybe get more people to return and get more people to play it that otherwise would not have played it. But so far, 11.5% is completely in line with
Yeah.
all the other DLCs Sony put out. Of course, it's 1 week. Maybe that changes.
Yeah, that is
But the
really
moment,
interesting
yeah,
though.
yeah,
I would not have expected that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah. It just seems that there's like a ceiling for DLC, like 90% or 80% at least just doesn't care or won't go back to the game, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see all the gold editions and stuff. Like they know if they can sell you the DLC before launch, like you will otherwise probably not care
Yeah.
later on. So they want to get that money up front.
Yeah. No, I think that's very valid. Um, I think also, yeah, baby cam, sorry. This is my commentator. He's coming in to offer some expertise.
Yeah.
And then Cavecast also, thank you for the 5. You have 5 years to remaster any game from any era. What are you choosing? Remaster or remake? I guess we'll do both. Remaster, just like reworking stuff, I might choose Bloodborne. Give me that 4K 60, baby. As for remake, I feel like there's a game that I've said before that I'm not thinking of right now. The one that immediately jumped out to me was like Bully, the original Bully. I think that'd be really cool to see remade fully. But what about you, Joe Rapper?
Whoa, you wanna have Bully remade fully?
Yeah.
Nice. Damn. I would love the Horizon Zero Dawn remake, and we're getting it. Yes. No.
Cringe.
That's, yeah. Damn. For a remaster, yeah, that would be something that is right now at 30 that I want to play at 60. I'm kind of having a hard time, like Starfield on the Xbox Series.
Can you imagine if you're like, yeah, that game from a couple months ago, please.
I want, yeah. Redfall also still doesn't. I don't care about that.
That'd be so funny, dude. If you're just like totally shaving Starfield. I'd like to see that remaster.
Yeah, I want to see that.
It deserves a fresh chance.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
man.
yeah. In terms of remakes, I would say LA Noire maybe. Like, I think that game still
Ooh.
deserves like another shot, and I think, but I'm scared that going back won't be the same. That I'm like kind of having this amazing idea in my head of how amazing and interesting that experience was. While, yeah, maybe it doesn't hold up. But I do still think that that game does things that we haven't seen, yeah, in other games still to this day.
Yeah.
So having that remade, I think, would be interesting. And for the remaster, maybe then something like Heavy Rain or something. I still think, but I already played that game, but I still think like I would still like some of my friends that are not really into games. They, for example, just played Detroit and they thought that was great. Like, that's of course a very like not very, yeah, just an interactive sort of experience.
Very accessible too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm saying like play Heavy Rain, but then I don't know what is the version. Is there a PS4 version? I think there is, but that probably still doesn't
Yeah, I
look
think
great.
so.
So
Yeah.
having like maybe like a Quantic Dream PS5, like with all the bells and whistles, and then Heavy Rain, Beyond, and Detroit in one bundle. I think that would actually be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. And I since you started describing those, I can think of even more. I mean, obviously LA Noire, I think remade would be really tricky because they couldn't use any of the same face tech. So I don't think it could be remastered. I think it would have to be remade, like from scratch.
Yeah.
And I let Orion chew on the fidget spinner, and I didn't think, and I started spinning it, and then just little globs of spit and drool started flying all over the room. But yeah, I think that one, I think a remaster for like Until Dawn would actually sell really well because a lot of people played that back in the day on the PS4, and it's still locked at like 1080p.
We saw
30.
sales numbers for it.
Really?
What's your guess? Yeah.
I mean, I would think like 4 or 5 million probably.
I think it was 2.9.
2.9? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is surprising.
That's really like
but
one of
wasn't
those
it,
bubble games.
Wasn't it also a PlayStation Plus title for a bit, or am I imagining that?
Yeah, I think at one point it was.
So total units might be a lot more than that, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's one.
I see like Assassin's Creed 1, of course, like that's like a very good one as well, because that's like not playable. Like Ubisoft sent me for the 25th anniversary last year, or like 25th. That would be crazy. No, for the anniversary from Assassin's Creed, the 15th. They sent me like all the games on PlayStation as like a boxed copy, but then Assassin's Creed 1 was missing. They got me a Ubisoft Connect code for that because it's not playable on PlayStation 5.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny.
It's a PS3 game. So
that's funny.
It's crazy. Where like having the remake actually makes sense. Like you want, like yeah, because it's not just
you can't play it otherwise. Yeah. That's crazy. Wow. Shinobi remake, kind of getting that soon, but I want a legit open world 3D Shinobi. Ooh. Yeah, LA Noire would be great, but it would definitely be hard to fix it up for this generation.
Yeah,
and beyond.
I think so as well.
Yeah, I've tried going through when they dropped that it was LA Noire. I don't know if they called it remaster. maybe they did, but whatever it was on the Switch, when they dropped it on the Switch kind of randomly a couple of years ago, I went back through it again, and I still love that game, but man, there's some weirdness there. It's like for the time it was cutting edge, and let's just say there's a reason they didn't choose to go that route for facial animations over what they ended up doing. And it's just because it can look really weird at times. Things don't really work. But back in 2011, I think when that launched, there was no other way to do that. Like the fidelity of facial animations was nowhere near where they needed it to be for real-time gameplay to be able to detect like if somebody's lying or darting their eyes away. Like there was just nothing like that. So good for its time, but nowadays it looks pretty rough for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think Coder, of course, like that was in the works, but it's probably not happening anymore. I was thinking of like the Witcher, that's of course also being made by a different team, a Witcher 1 remake. So that's pretty interesting.
That one needs it too.
I think Red Dead Redemption would have also been cool, like with the Red Dead Redemption 2 tech, but then instead we got this remaster.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on.
Which it is cool that now you can play like on the PS5 using a PS4 version, you can play the game at 60 frames because they added 60 frame support.
Yeah, it's not like, I do think that, I mean, there's so much time between those two games, and now with the sort of like the amount of popularity that Rockstar has, especially because of GTA Online, people have picked up Red Dead 2, not having like a on par like Tony is going too crazy with like remaking their games, but they are doing it for the people that are joining their ecosystem right now, and they're like, whoa, I just saw the TV show, let's get in on that. I think it would benefit Rockstar as well. By the way, crazy side story, but I was at a neighbor meeting, and then I said, yeah, and The Last of Us, and people that were there just did not know that it was a game. They only thought it was a TV show.
That's crazy,
like, wow.
Dude. That's Sony's kind of goal, though, is to make their media so ubiquitous, like that everybody knows it, but nobody can tell really where it started or where it ended. Because then that's the thing. Everybody's like, so they're just going to release like a new version of The Last of Us Part 2 or something for $70 and people will buy it. It's like, yeah, because for all those people, like you said, that are seeing the show, they don't realize that it came out 3 years ago. They don't realize they're paying full price for something that's years and years old. They just see it as, oh, that's the game about the thing I've been watching. That's cool. And they'll go buy it. Like that's the magic
maybe
of it.
The new price also shows them, oh, it's brand new, I need to get it, instead of it being 20, and then they're like,
Totally will.
I don't know.
Totally will. Oh, and Sean coming in with another poggers at the very end.
Christmas.
Early Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Chrysler. Thank you, Sean. 5 gifted subs on or memberships on YouTube to Steve, Leo, Dylan, Milk Dud. Oh man, now I'm hungry. And Real Talk, Real Things. Welcome everybody.
Entertainment.
Look at that. Now I am hungry. I'm realizing how hungry I am now. So
yeah,
I think that's probably a good spot. Do you have any closing thoughts, Mr. Joe Raptor?
No, I think we have to figure out next week. Like, I have quite the busy schedule with like a lot of social things.
Oh, we get it. You're popular. Jeez.
No, I have family
you have
things.
friends.
I mean, you're going away as well. So
people that care about you. God.
Yeah. I can recommend it.
It's a good time.
No, I have a Tinder date with Hufflepuff on Thursday.
Good luck with that. Oh man,
gotta collect them all and then compare them. Like, oh, the Slytherin was kind of nice.
Yeah.
No, didn't pay, and Gryffindor was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
but what I'm trying to say is that this might be the final episode of the year.
Yeah. Well, we can play it by ear. I'll let you guys know because I'll be streaming probably on the 26th or 27th. So I'll let you guys know where Mr. Joe Raptor is, depending on how his schedule lines up.
I do have like a dinner that time, and that's kind of the sucky thing with this being like the time difference. But that is when you start streaming. So that is unfortunate. But the Friday, the 29th. I am able to at your start time probably, but I'm not
Okay.
sure if you're then streaming. I'm not. Yeah,
I think
I'm
we
not sure
we
if you're
could
then.
probably make that work because I don't leave for Arizona for a couple days after that, so we can probably make
Oh,
that work.
okay. We
So
we will stay in touch on that.
yeah,
Either way, yeah, happy holidays at least to everyone watching and
indeed.
listening. And if it turns out to be the final episode, yeah, we're trying to make it work. But if not, already, happy New Year and
Yes.
all that stuff.
Yes.
And then see you next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but yeah, we will. Yeah, I've been having a great time, Luke, doing this year, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, would love to continue it. So let's do that.
It's been a joy, a blast. So thank you everybody. Much love for hanging out with us. Thank you to everybody who gave super chats and memberships and
Yeah.
everything. You guys were very, very generous today. You humble us every single moment. So never think we
sure.
take it for granted. Happy holidays. You all are wonderful. We'll see you on the other side. And stay safe, everybody. Show some love to somebody you care about. And we'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.